Hi everyone, welcome back and let's continue our series on cloud computing. So in this video, we are going to be talking about Amazon EC2. So EC2 is like one of the most fundamental building blocks of cloud computing when it comes to Amazon. And then every cloud provider, they offer compute. So basically, it's just like a server or virtual server on the internet. So when I'm owning a computer, so I manage everything. It's like a physical device with me. Well, when we relate this to cloud computing, though, this is basically like a computer on the cloud. So this is managed by someone else, like a cloud provider, in this case Amazon. And then if other provider like GCP, they offer the same feature, so it is going to be managed by them. So, and the idea is like, managing everything by the provider, and we just have to worry about, configuring our like storage capacity, computing power, or like the file system, etc. And then everything will be managed by the provider, right? So that's really useful for us because we can focus on whatever is required as a part of the business, right? So we don't need to worry about installing software, provisioning. And one of the key benefits of cloud computing like EC2 is, we can just pay for the different types of model. For example, the whatever the type of the machine I want, and then we can also scale in and scale out based on our need, and everything will be handled by them. So, and EC2 is one of the key fundamental building blocks of that. All right, so that's the quick and this shortest definition. And we have different types of like cloud computing. For example, different types of instances. For example, it depends on the what kind of work you are doing. For example, if like if you are uh, doing work related to database, maybe you have to prefer one type of instance than the other. There are different types based on the need. For example, if you go here, so on this documentation, instant types, the general purpose. So for example, for normal web servers, etc., this is the one suitable for us. And the compute optimized, if you need computation like batch processing. And then for memory optimization, let's say if you need some in-memory databases, and then uh, you need to work on memory optimization, so you have to go for this. And then similarly, there are certain other types, for like storage optimized based on the, if you are like looking for something storage intensive. All right, so that's just a quick documentation, but we'll be looking hands on here, right here. And then if you go to console and then click on this EC2. So since I have already used EC2 a lot, so it's in recently visited. But if you don't see here, just go type here and then EC2 if you just want to have hands-on along with me. All right, so this is the console. And when you go here, it says, create, manage, and monitor virtual servers in the cloud. So there are like a certain use cases and documentations, so which you can always study. And so when we want to launch our own virtual server like EC2, or you can say computer on the cloud, basically we will have to click on this launch instance, and then we will see all the configuration as a part of this process. All right, so if it is a first time, you can take a walkthrough, but that's not needed because I will explain everything right here. So launch an instance, right? So if you want to know something about this, you can always click on this little info, and then it says, what are you going to do, or what is the field about, right? So for example, here, name in tags, as a name, we just want to give in identifier. Unlike S3 or something, it doesn't have to be unique. So we can give a name like my, and then web server, and this is the the name of the instance. So you can just give a meaningful instance name. And then, so this is important. So, and this section is basically, it says what kind of image you want, right? So basically, when you take for when you are creating, and then you have to take for what kind of image or operating system you want. For example, Amazon Linux, you have Mac OS, and then it's also Linux. Ubuntu, it's also Linux. And if you want to go for Windows, you can go for Windows. And then even for different versions of Linux, we have Red Hat Linux, and then Debian, and so on. So different distros are available. For example, Ubuntu, and also Amazon has its one Linux image, right? So it's not fully, it doesn't support like all the commands. Sometimes, if you want to install something, you have to first install the package. So it's a pretty lightweight, but it will work for our case, right? But if you want to check for, let's say, Windows or Mac OS or Ubuntu or Debian, you can always click on that. And so here, this is the type of the image we select. So it's already selected. And Amazon Mesin image. So what is the, like the type of the instance we want here? So for example, if you go here, it says Amazon Linux, and it's a free tier eligible, right? So there are like different types. For example, standard, these are not free tier eligible, right? So that's why I'm gonna be going here with this one, because this is free tier eligible. Okay, I'll just uh okay, no, I selected the wrong one. Okay, let me select this. Okay, I accidentally select that. And then here the architecture. um so, and then here instance type. So because we selected free tier eligible, so make sure that you select this, otherwise you may have to pay. So that's really important, even though the cost will not be high, but still you have to pay. And here in the instance type, this was the operating systems. It is not the instance type, sorry about that. And then this is the instance type, right? So if you click on this, it will provide you a little info, and then you can navigate here. So to know about like the different instance types, right? Because it matters which type you select. So currently, here, for example, if you select on this, and here are different type, like T2 nano. So it's a small power computer, you can say. And then T2 micro, this is free tier eligible. But the T2 nano, this is not, because this is the free tier eligible. And there is T2 small, and then medium, and then large, and then T2X large, 2X large, and so on. So, and as you move downward, you will see like a lot of powerful machines. For example, it cost C5D.12 X large. It costs you like on demand. This is like the cost approximated, and you will see some cost information here. If you are going for the production, it will definitely matter, right? Which one do you choose? Because you need certain types of feature. But since we are going for tutorial or learning purposes, so we will be selecting this micro. All right. And here, if you want, you can just compare here, and then you will see some information. For example, in instance type T2 nano, what is the architecture, and then what is the memory in gigabyte. For example, micro has 1 gigabyte. And then storage and network performance, what's going to be low to moderate. And then this one moderate, and then it's pretty high. And then like you can see, it is up to 12 gigabit. So extremely powerful ones. But we'll be sticking with this. And okay, I'm going here. So we selected this one. And then, so keep your login is basically when you want to access this machine from outside this console, right? Let's say you created a machine, and then you wanted to give access to the developer in your community, I mean team. And then he or she can access wants to access this machine, then they will be using this. So for example, I created already the one. You can proceed with a peer without a key peer. It's not recommended, but fine for tutorial if you are not going to sss into the machine, right? I will show you how to sss. But otherwise, if you want, just click here, create a peer, and then here rsa type, and then a pem file. So we'll be using this pem file. So but if you are using like for example windows less than 10, you have to go with putty, and then this is .ppk file. So but like most of the time it supports even on windows. I'll show you how to use that because I'm using windows now. So that will perfectly work. Just go and then create a key peer. um so and then you have to download somewhere, and I will show you how to use that. I'm not going to download it. If you click here, it will ask you for a download location, and then just download it like this. Okay, my keep here, and then okay, it will give you some location. You will download it, right? So I'm not going to do. Instead, I'm going to choose this my web server keep here. Okay, perfect. Here I'm gonna be using this, and the in network setting. So network setting is extremely important because it allows you to where to create this EC2 instance, like in which region. Or I mean, region means like a VPC, something known as VPC, virtual private cloud, and then by default it's going to be created in this the default VPC in this region. So this region doesn't matter. It is fine wherever you are. For example, I'm in US East 2, and the subnet, and then whether to assign public IP or not. So it depends if you want to have public access to this or not. And then like so firewall security groups. So security groups is like rules for allowing access to your EC2 instance, right? So whether you want someone else to access and then have access, to do some operations, etc. So you can define here. And for example, okay, I'm gonna be just editing this, and we'll see more options. So for example, here VPC, you just select the default one. That's fine. And if you have any preference on subnet, that's fine. For example, you can choose this subnet, and then this will be created on this subnet, right? So it will matter, so specifically when you are having like a production ready application, but here it doesn't matter. We don't have any clients to serve. And then even if you have availability zones, so I'm not going to touch that. And then auto assign public IP. So for example, because we want to access it later, so we will see how to access this. So we are going to be enabling this. And as a security rule, so I'm going to say my security, and then ec2. Okay, and so description, I'm not going to toss it, type ssh inbound security rule. So this is like I'm allowing someone to access to this accesses to this instance, and then it's everywhere. So here anywhere you can do custom or even my IP. So if you are worried about someone having access, you can give my IP, but you have to be careful that no one else will be able to access it from outside. Okay. um so okay, sorry. Here, and then and then this is the port 22, right? Because if you select sss, it is by default 22, and you cannot change that. And then here I'm going to be writing another one, so called http, because when someone hits our IP, we are going to be displaying some text or something from server. And it is port 80. I'm going to be saying anywhere, and that's fine, right? Because we'll be deleting this right after this. So and for configuration storage, and this is like I'm just going to keep this, so free tier eligible. um, and then advanced details if we have anything. So for example, I had a settings, I guess. For example, shutdown behavior, so termination protection. So this one is important. So if you want to enable termination protection, so if you click, for example, when someone accidentally tries to terminate, this instance cannot be terminated using console directly. So you have to come here. So and then first disable it, and then you have to delete it, right? So this setting is pretty important, specifically in production setting, right? So sometimes someone might delete it accidentally, and then you have no way of reverting back. So it's just like to prevent accidental deletion. And then also stop, and yeah, that's fine, I think. And the stop protection, for example, it's also if you enable, someone will not be able to stop it right from the console without disabling it first, right? So I'm just gonna leave it like that. And other than that, I think we are good. And this user data, so user data is something where we can place some updates and then some data, let's say web server installation and so on, and serve like a small uh serve the traffic or update the software. So basically we'll come here, so I'll show you how to write something that serves hello world or something on the web when you go to your public IP, right? We'll come back here. And summary, if you go here, it shows you the summary. You can also create a number of instance. For example, if you give here, uh, so you can launch the 5 number of instances, but so we can just leave one. And then because when we have to create multiple instances, we're not going to create like two instances, so we're going to configure auto scaling group, so that that means that will just make scale in and out easy for us, so without having to manually create this number of instances, right? But that's possible. And then here, and then I'm gonna launch the instance. All right, it may take a while. And all right, it's quick. And then we have launched our first EC2 instance. All right, so if you go here, instances, I don't know how to close that. Oh, okay, now my web server, it's pending. This was stopped maybe. Okay, yeah, this is the one that we created. For example, if you select here, you can see details. um, so you can see all the details. So before that, I want to show like here instance state. For example, because if you remember, I tried deletion protection. So if I try to delete and then terminate delete, this says failed to terminate in instance because of this, right? So disable API termination. So it says, okay, disable first, otherwise you cannot delete. So that's what I wanted to enable that setting, right? And other than that, you can see like the type and everything here, alarm status, availability zone, and so on, right? And okay, so here, if you go to details, and then you have some information. So for example, if this is the public IP, and so here if you see the DNS, for example 131, and then this is the public IP. All right, so instant state running. And then so this private IP, so private IP is used for internal communication. But if you want to, let's say, access on the website or web, for example here, like this, you have to use public IP. But the problem is, currently we don't serve anything, so I'll show you how to serve that. But currently, like for example, this public IP can change, so it's not reliable, right? That's the problem of public IP. So when I, let's say, stop and then maybe start it again, it might change, right? So when I reboot, this public IP will change. So but this private IP will remain same, right? So and so for that we also have a solution, and I will explain you after this. And so this is the details. and status and alarm. So if we have something like metrics, for example, here you can check for like the matrices. And here monitoring, for example, we can see the statistics, CPU utilization, what is the CPU utilization, and then network, so basically bytes in and out. And then you can also see credit uses and credit balance. This is basically for monitoring, as to see like how our CPU is doing. And then for security, and then we can definitely see security group, and then we can go here and then see whether or not like we can access or not, right? So basically now we have inbound rule. This security group is by default stateful. That means when you enable access, I mean the traffic in, so it is by default going to allow the outbound, so that's called inbound. So when it's coming in your C2, this is inbound. If you enable inbound, outbound is always allowed. All right, so here, so we can outbound all the traffic, but inbound this SSH and HTTP on port 80. All right, so this EC2 instance, sorry, security group is attached to EC2 instance. All right, so this is like a security guard for EC2. And here networking, you can see what is the info VPC, subnet, and so on. And here is storage. So for example, block storage. So by default, EBS. So it's EBS. For example, if you delete, it's going to be deleted. This is the default one that it was created, as a part of this EC2. But if you attach later on, it's not going to be deleted, right? So you have to keep that on mind. And here tags, if you have any tags, right? For example, my name web server. All right, so I'm gonna be clicking here so we can see the same thing from here. So it's the same view. All right. So if you want to, let's say, go to this EC2 instance, see how it is. Basically, you can click on this. Okay, so here I can do connect, and then I'll go here, right here. So I'm not sure if this is the same as this, but if you go to connect instance type using public IP, and then here EC2, so it's basically doing SSH. So if you want to go here SSH, you will see something like this. So here I'm going to be copying this SSH and my web server, this key, we have this and this. Okay, I'm going to copy this, but here we can, right here we can connect to. Boom. So basically we have connected to this Amazon Linux we chose before 2023. And then here you can check whatever you want. For example, who am I? And then you will see you are the user with this username EC2 user. And then for example you can do lsa, you can see all the files, right? So basically you can now do everything here. So you can install something software and then run, and then you can do whatever you want. So basically this is your machine. For example, I can do make mkdir hello, and then I can hello. So for example, if you know some Linux commands, so what I'm gonna do is, let's say, index dot uh, txt, and then I will do index dot txt. So this is basically, and then I'm gonna insert hello world, and I'm using right quit, right, and then cat index dot txt. Look at this. So I wrote, so basically it's like a computer, Now I can do whatever I want. All right, so this is one of the ways, and then I will show you how to do the same thing, when you don't have access to this console, right? So let's say your friend created, but you want to access it to this machine from your computer, not from this console, right? So I will show you that. All right, so to access it from our machine, we have to go this SSH client we went before. For example, here we did this, but if you go here and then copy this, right? So this, and then you can do it from like Linux, like Ubuntu. But if you have something like Git Bash, because it supports Linux commands, I can use that. I do have like WSL enabled. I can do that, but I'm just gonna make it simpler. So if you have Git Bash, just go here, but make sure the file or you downloaded is in the same directory to make it easier, right? So, for example, I have this my web server key here that I selected before when I was creating. Other than that, you can also keep it anywhere, but just reference that file. So I'm gonna be doing, okay, sorry, um here, this, and okay, save to insert, and then so now as assets, this is like a secure cell, and then this is the name of the file because it's in the same location. If it is not, you have to give the full path, and then this is the name of the compute machine, and then this is the like the reference, like this one is the IP. So here if I enter, maybe it's going to ask something. So it might ask you for like a couple of prompts. Do you want to allow something? Just like type yes. All right, so now since we have done this before already from the like the console, it's the same. For example, here, if you do ls, this hello is here, right? Because now I'm accessing this from, let's say, another device, not from the console, but I still have, because I'm accessing to the same compute machine, right? So, and then if I do get hello and then index.txt, it gives me this hello world. All right, so that was it for this. And then you can also do something like sudo install some package name, right? So you can check about that. So it's just about doing some hands-on with this, right? So for now I'll exit from here and then I will close it. All right, guys. So right now, so we saw that this public IP address changed when we stopped and started, right? So this is unreliable because this might be used for accessing, and then every time it's changing, so we cannot access this. So basically we can fix this issue with the help of elastic IP address. So basically what we can do is create an elastic IP and associate with that instance, right? With this instance, and that elastic IP now becomes the public IP address, and then it will basically remain the same, so it won't change. So for that, let me create an elastic IP address and then go here and then just okay, no, search for elastic IP and then go to elastic IP EC2 feature, go here and then allocate elastic IP address. So not much setting, just allocate, and boom, we have got elastic IP address. And if I go here, okay, maybe we can allocate somewhere associate elastic IP address. Yeah, just click on that and then instance and choose your instance, right? So this is the one we created. Reassociate with the, if it is already okay, so we don't want that. So if it says if it's already associated with a resource, do you want this ID to be reassociated with a different resource? All right, so we don't care about that at this moment. Okay, so there was like a little information. And now if I go here, so if you see this allocate IP address with 128, and if you pay closer attention, so this public IP now had changed to the same address, right? And auto assigned IP address, no, because we associated, and then this elastic IP. Now it has become the public IP, right? So now if so I'm not gonna do that, but if you just stop and start, maybe we can do that. Okay, let's do stop, and I will start it again. It's stopping. I'll come back when it is fully stopped. All right, so it's now stopped, and let me start it. And so it has been initiated, and it will take a while again. All right, so now it's already running, and then if you see, the public IP address is the same, so it's the same as this elastic IP, right? So when you want to maintain a same IP address, uh, you have to allocate an elastic IP address, which becomes the public IP address. All right, so that was it for this EC2 instance. I hope you learned a lot of things, and so if you are doing some more operations and then you want to analyze, you can always check here. For example, what percentage of CPU is now utilized is 4.67%, and then you can see CPU credit usage and all of the matrices. So that was, I guess, it for this video. So I hope you liked it, and if you have any questions, please write down in the comment section. I will try to answer. Consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.